Welcome to another tzuzamen. Hi, Tzip.
Hi, Tzili.
Ruby Namdar,
Wow.
an Israeli writer,
Uh-huh.
Iranian descent.
Ah,
Ruby is a writer, lecturer, teacher. Ruby, I'll dive right in.
I
You
can
and
say
I,
Yes.
you and I live in New York for many, many, many years and go to
Yes.
a lot and are involved in the Israeli culture a lot. Tzipi, on the other hand, is half and half Israel, half
CP is
is
a failed Israeli, what Rabin said, Nefolet Nemoshot, which is
There's no translation for that.
but when you
it's
finish,
so bad.
when
It's
you
so bad.
finish,
So bad.
the field and you finish whatever, then what's remain on the ground, this is me.
It's terrible. I literally didn't put Sippy with both of us because she's always jumping with some other
No, why?
definition.
This is it. You
That's
just
why I
said.
said 50-50. She's
I'm
50%
50-50.
in
I
Israel,
teach
50.
here. So between the semesters, I'm in Israel.
She's always in Israel.
That's good.
Okay,
But
yeah.
Ruby, you got the best prize in Israel for your previous book, uh, The House is Ruined,
It was translated as the ruined house.
The Ruined House.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about these days.
Yeah.
You didn't write it about what's going on now,
No?
but
No.
I cannot even stay away from the name. And if you don't mind, I want to bring it to up to date. What is Ruined House for you now?
Well, I'll say something about the book and the responses I get from it today, that people write to me and say that there was a prophetic element in it. Now, I'm not a prophet, בכלל לא. But there was something about the state of mind that the book created, a kind of apocalyptic state of mind, where New York seems like a place on the verge of apocalypse. And the Jewish life of the Jewish protagonist is about to explode with, he was riding on a smooth autopilot, Jewishly, basically not leading a Jewish life. And before you know it, something exploded in his life
It's
and
the character from the book. Yeah.
forced him back into the ancient Jewish memory, but he has no tools to. He's a professor, very smart man, but he has no tools to deal with the visions that he's seeing and the eruption of the ancient identity, ancient memory. And I feel that nowadays we are living a non-artistic version of the same thing.
Yeah.
Something happened exactly a year from now, on October 7th, that disrupted our autopilot.
Yes.
And this is Israelis and this is American Jews.
Right.
And we were flying autopilot in two very different directions.
Yes.
Israelis were being less Jewish, more Israeli, invested in the strength, power. American Jews were comfortably flying away from, basically, let's just say it, being Jewish in
I
a
mean, the
nice
American Jews,
American Jews.
because Israeli went back to
Back, but in a way that was not the way that we were used to. We were raised
right.
a different kind of Judaism.
Yes.
October 7 exploded our notion of who we are.
Right.
Everybody now has a ruined house. Israelis, our sense of security, our sense of agency, autonomy, were very threatened. We were taken back. My first memories are 6-day war bombings. I was 3 years old, bombing in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem.
Fast forward a few years, 6 years, I'm 9 years old. I remember Yom Kippur War. I remember the siren. We were in my grandmother's house in Mea Shearim, Jerusalem, in the middle of the Hasidic ultra-Orthodox neighborhood, where this caught us. And we saw everybody running on jeeps with talitot and streimels, like going on jeeps up and down to the hospitals to take care of the wounded. Israelis lost our sense of security, and I don't think that our generation will regain it.
No.
No.
No matter how hard we hit them now, and we do, and we should. But the sense of
Ruby,
security,
think that something broke a long time before. The
2 years
7th of
before.
October, the 7th of October really
yes,
hit hard. I remember around 15 years ago in Israel,
Mhm.
I remember telling Leon, it feels like a house of divorced kids, because once
Yeah,
parents get divorced, the house is never the same again.
yeah.
Something fundamental is broken and it's never repaired. And it just got worse and worse since.
I think what you
October
also might
7
be,
just blew up the whole thing till the end, to the end.
I was in denial.
you were, well, we were all in
I'm
denial.
still in
Look,
denial. I'm not, I didn't feel like her.
you could say that the whole juridic, whatever, reform or revolution, depends how you want to call it, that happened. There was a year or so, or even a little more, before October 7, where we all were at war over the democratic
Right.
system.
Yes.
And that already was a ruined house. We already felt that the harmony, exactly as Tzili described, like children in a divorced house. But something about October 7 also had an impact on American Jewry
Yeah.
that in a way is bigger than it had on us Israelis, because they were smooth sailing towards assimilation.
Yeah.
And look, I know it's not fair to say, because there's many communities, there's no American Jewry. There's there's all kinds of American Jewish communities, ways of life. But I would say that the large majority, very large majority of American Jews was becoming less Jewy with every generation,
Yes.
more American. The liberal, progressive values that they associated with their Jewishness became more prominent with every passing generation, while the Jewish content, practice, commitment was getting thinner and thinner.
Right.
And then came October 7, and the American academic left and intellectual left and social media and youth revealed their true face. And American Jews, especially the young ones, are in terrible crisis. And what they really don't know, because we Israelis, at least there's one thing we have, which is our famous resilience. We are hardened. We're all Israelis, we're like an onion of trauma, right? Every memory we
Beautiful
have is
metaphor.
trauma. But I don't even know if we have a core, but that makes us strong. I mean, makes us like maybe
Makes us
not
resilient, because
resilient. I don't know strong. Yeah, that's a good point.
resilient.
It makes us resilient. We're hardened by trauma. American Jewry forgot trauma. They forgot that Jewish trauma existed. You know, you live peacefully for 2-3 generations. You're allowed to climb up the social ladder. You're accepted as white American, and you take it.
I
You
think in
take
the
that.
back of their head, they always knew Israel is there. If we need, we have a place to go.
Not the new generation.
Now,
Not the
after
new
Not the
generation.
new
no,
generation, really.
but those, hold on.
Our generation was the last one that thought this way.
Okay, I'm talking about this generation.
And
Now,
the young
after
generation,
October 7th, I don't think they feel that Israel is there for them.
yeah,
No.
I think that you're right. I actually think that they have a lot of anger against Israel in the way that you have anger against something that disrupted your life.
Yeah.
But
Now,
listen, this is a big conflict, because for the American Jewry, not the young generation, it's really frightening what happened in October 11. You know,
Yes.
it's really frightening, because
Frightening to all of us.
the notion that, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of missiles are, against us, declaring so many countries, Arab countries, we want to wipe Israel off the earth. That's becoming kind of, it's frightening, and they don't know what to do, because on one hand, what you said, they got away from Jewishness, you know, they are not anymore attached so much to Israel, not the young people.
With that, which is another dimension. This morning, I just that Smotrich and Daniela Weiss brought their group.
How many?
To Gaza to start the first settlement. And he said that we were never more united.
Oh my God.
This is ridiculous. Never
It's
more
crazy.
united.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And it is crazy. And you know what? With the craziness that is going on now because of Bibi, I mean, it's because of many things, but Bibi allows all of this to happen because
Bibi invited these people into the government.
And not only that, they protect.
Nobody would ever think that they would come into government.
And to say that we've never been so united.
Well,
go back to live in Gaza.
Yeah, but she said, and the other ones, Stroke, whatever her name, Stroke, I call her, said that it's a miracle what happened to us in the last year.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But listen, maybe you can give me an advice, because Tzili, I'm with Tzili for so many years. By the way, we were born at Square Dizengoff, in Tel Aviv, both of us. But I'm in
you cannot get more Tel Aviv.
I am in a very
no, it doesn't.
I am in a very difficult place because as I told you, I always was mad at myself for not being in Israel. I don't live here. I'm here 6 months a year almost. I cannot breathe here. I have Tzili, I have my husband, I have my son.
You have your career.
I don't really.
Students.
That's not my, but just leave it on the side. This is not really the core of my life. But then what I told you, I was in denial up to now, lately. Or year and a half ago, when suddenly I realized what's happening, with Smotrich and Begvir, and now what you are telling. And I cannot listen to it because I cannot anymore take my need to reclaim what we lost.
Yeah.
I cannot take it. I cannot take it. And I don't know what to do with myself because she knows I'm not pretending. I'm not playing games. I don't live here. I'm in New York 6 months, but I'm not there. I'm 24/7.
You live there.
Israeli news.
There. You live in Israel.
I cannot write. I don't know how you write. I cannot write.
I don't. Who's writing?
I don't have the images.
7, I haven't written a word of
speak
fiction.
about last year. Here, I'm here like
that's another conversation.
From 2000.
There are many conversations.
I cannot play the piano. I cannot write here. This is terrible. Because I write my own scripts and now I cannot write. I used to play the piano. I cannot play the piano. And I don't know what to do with it.
There's something different about Israelis. And I think you can relate to this because in one hand, everybody has their homeland or their childhood wherever, and they came here. I think with Israelis, it's very different because we are attached to the country in a
it's very different.
I think anybody in New York is attached to his country.
Yeah, but not like us.
Maybe culturally or food-wise, but the way we are, doesn't matter where we live, we're in Israel. At the same time, I have to say, because especially now, during the last year, in a way, it's not fair to say it because the Israelis are there and we're here. Sometimes there, it's different. The whole definition of home and homeland and the personal situation, what home is about. And we talk about it a lot, especially Tzipi and I, because we see things the opposite or very different. And it happens to you too when you wrote your book here and you won the prize in Israel and they didn't like it that you won.
They did not like it.
Because you live in New York and they don't like that they take chunks from them because there's so little for them in Israel. Yeah. And we see it very differently. So the whole thing about ruined home and the definition of home is very different, very much alike and very different, and has many faces, and also for the American Jews and also for the Israelis who live.
Yes.
So I don't
Yes.
think we'll ever have a common ground for all of us. I don't think so. And
You know,
we're very much together in a way.
We have so much in common. Silly,
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
What do you
I
mean?
don't know him, and I'm sure I have a lot in common with him. And you.
Of
we have a
course
lot,
we
listen,
do.
we
I live
have,
with a man who thinks like you, but what? I have so much in common with him.
I don't say that we don't have in common, but we
let
see
me,
things differently.
this is very interesting. And look, the idea that achdut, like
Yeah,
unity
unity.
is kitsch. Kitsch, זה kitsch מוסרי ואינטלקטואלי. That's not, there's never unity. Unity there is in cults.
Right.
The Jewish people, our unity is the fact that we have and that's beyond Israelis, and Israelis are very Jewish in this way, is that there's a strong sense that we are one, and then there's a world of difference and argument and disagreement.
Yeah.
This tension is what makes us Jewish.
Mhm.
We cannot expect unity in a kitsch sense. We never were, not once. Look at the Bible. Look at the Israelites in the desert. We never had this type of univocal, everybody thinks the same, we're all mesmerized by the same leader, we're all mesmerized by the same idea. This is not a Jewish value, it's not a Jewish mode of being, and it's most certainly not Israeli. And we should part with it, with this notion of unity. And we should actually be proud of the fact that we don't all march b'shlasho. We don't. That's actually what makes us great. And if you ask me, that's what made us survive. One of the things that made us survive. This abnormal ability to be totally one and totally at odds with each other at the same time. Very confusing, but that's very Jewish. So that's one. I think that everybody who lives in this generation has something very broken in them. The Israelis lost their sense of strength and agency. That's why we now overreact in such a, and I think it's important to retaliate. I'm not a pacifist.
Yes.
But we definitely overreact, and it's understandable. American Jewry has a double crisis, triple crisis. The parents don't recognize the children anymore. The liberal parents were liberal progressive, but still had the basic Jewish sentiment. Their children lack that, and those who have a Jewish sentiment are not committed to Israel. And in order to be accepted or to feel that they belong in white progressive America, they're the first to denounce Israel and Zionism, which was their grandparents' messianic dream. This is a brokenness. It's easy to hate and be angry or make fun of these kids who sit in the encampment, little Jewish kids with kippah and kafia.
Right.
I see it and it disgusts me.
My students,
Okay?
they come with a coffee and they're Jewish.
Exactly. But let's now understand and take a second as creative people, as people who write stories, like Tzipi and Tzili, of what happens inside the soul and mind of a young person who sits there with a yarmulke and kafia. What a underground collision this is, because they know
Look at the
that
Ten
for their
Commandments.
parents,
For them, don't
for
kill.
their parents and Bamuda, of course, as far as the conscious part of their mind, they think that they're doing the Jewish thing by shouting Palestine, Palestine together with the rest of the students.
Right.
In the unconscious, my bet is that many of them are feeling a great conflict and dissonance that is going to come back and bite them later. Think about it. Think about it in a way that solidarity was the main, Jewish solidarity was the one thing we all agreed on. We couldn't agree on a nusach shela, how do we pray? What do we eat? What do we wear? Is it this? Is it that? But the Jewish instinct the Jewish solidarity instinct was the one thing that we agreed on, always.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
the unifying mechanism. For them to join the enemies of their own people, even if they tell themselves a story that I'm doing it because it's a Jewish thing, it's moral Jewish values, that's why I wear the kippah, that's why I hold the seder in the encampment. They can tell themselves whatever the story they tell. Something inside them broke. And that's another ruined house that we don't think about a lot.
But listen, do
And
you
I'm
think that
thinking,
Tzili
what's
and me are
going
not, you think that Tzili and me and my husband and so many people and maybe you don't understand the balance of what happened to us and what we did in Gaza? We ask this question all the time. What could we do? You know, with the narrative that the Hamas was in every hospital, that every school, what could we do? So we could not, we just had to say, well, everybody is a Hamas, right? But to think that we killed 40,000, you know, I'm sure that also for me and you and Tzili and it's,
You know something weird that
cannot
happened?
comprehend it.
And it's not
What
done.
happened to us, and this is a trauma reaction.
Yeah.
I think 99% of Israelis, us, myself, I'm confessing, were much more horrified about this until a year ago.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a certain victory of Hamas.
Yeah.
Is that they managed to come between us and our humanity.
Right.
They knew we're going to do that. What, are they stupid?
Well, he knows us very
a
well.
psychopath. He was not stupid. He's no longer with us, but he was a complete sociopath. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was a genius.
And he really knew Israel.
Than the people who run Israel, I'm sorry to say, by far. And he knew that he's taking the Gazans into hell with him by doing this. What did they think?
Most Israelis don't care
towns?
about Gaza. Most Israel don't care what
This
happened
is-
in Gaza. Excuse me.
Okay, but how did it happen, Tzipi? How did it happen? It happened because they managed to create a trauma, and the trauma sent us back. And this was a very brilliant and I think
We spoke about
calculated
it
move.
yesterday.
Yeah.
They sent us back to a state of mind of pogrom survivors who were so concentrated around our own trauma that, you know, people who are very traumatized become narcissistic. זה ככה.
Wow.
No, people who are very traumatized, you go, you sit with them, you have no idea how you're feeling, what's happening with you. All they do is talk about their trauma because they're inside it.
Yeah.
Right. This is what happened to us.
Very interesting
This
observation.
is one of the main things that took place in Israel over the last year, that people became blank when it talks about the other side. They're just so taken by what took place that they don't see what happens to the other side. They don't hear about what happened to the other side. Nobody knows how many more will on both sides. Where is it going with this? What is the plan? We're just like in like an amok, you know?
We are in amok. Well, it was, you know, I don't do Krav Maga. I'm not very.
You know, like
martial arts, in everywhere. There's a cliche. People always say, if you kick someone in the right place, make sure they fall, because otherwise you're gonna send a surge of adrenaline through their body that will make them like a killing machine.
Yeah.
And they did this to us.
Yeah.
They sent a surge of adrenaline into our collective body.
But you know, the government actually fuel it. And a lot of the right-wing ultra-religious are fueling it. I mean,
of course they are.
It's good for them.
Bibi knows how to use it to feed
They
it.
know, but I'll tell you,
it's always coming out okay.
There was a funny post by this lady that teaches at Columbia, Gil Hochberg. I don't know her, maybe you know her, but I know of her. She posted at one point that Haaretz, yes, the most lefty
newspaper, very left,
that we have, is constantly bringing people back to October 7 and therefore preserving the spirit of war. And I think that people don't get that we Israelis, we're still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody has to pump it. This trauma is not going to go away so soon. And you know,
If at all.
exactly, in our lifetime, we may never go back to what we were.
Yeah.
The house is ruined. Our feeling of being at home in our body, in our community, living here but living there, having colleagues and friends who are not Jewish, American, feeling that we're all on the same page, nothing is ever going to be the same. Believing that your children are all on the same page with you about Judaism and Israel, and nothing is going to be whole again.
Maybe we should not, but maybe we shouldn't want that it will disappear totally from us, what happened. We must, like when you want to rebuild your house, you can leave one wall and then build new one around it, right? But still keep.
Yes, that's a very good metaphor. For the listeners who don't know, maybe that in traditional Jewish homes, they would build a beautiful new house, but they would leave a patch on a wall that's not finished.
Yes.
That's to remind us of the destruction of the temple. Zecher LaChurban.
Yes.
I have seen it as a child. I remember in the religious neighborhood.
I did in the house. Yeah.
It
was.
was.
To pay taxes.
And this was, and that's a very beautiful idea about how to heal, because it's a healing mechanism.
It is.
You leave trauma, you give trauma a designated place to live, and then by putting it in this like gated, small, designated place, you allow life to continue.
Right.
That's a very, very beautiful metaphor. And I hope that we could reach that stage. But I feel that we are still reeling.
Yes, well, of course.
We are not, healing doesn't begin. Healing takes some time to begin. Right now, we're still bleeding.
But they don't let us. I mean, let's face it. I hate to say it, but it seems like some people want the war to go on and on.
Yes, but I have a question for you, Tzipi. I agree with you that we have the absolutely for Israelis, the absolutely worst government we could have. I hope. I mean, that we ever had. We could have, right. God knows what we could have.
We can still have worse, but
we can have worse. This is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. So I am horrified, and I'm sure that many people in this government are looking to continue the war for various reasons.
Yeah.
Having said all this, I don't like, and we should be careful, especially when we speak to people who are not Israeli like us. We should be careful by repeating this story, because for many of them, this is a propagandist move to delegitimize Israel's right to defend itself. I don't believe that the whole thing that's happening in Gaza and Lebanon is just meant to secure Bibi's. I think there's an element of that. I don't think it's meant.
Oh, no.
I think that
I don't
Gaza
think so either.
be...
I don't think so either. No.
There are two different
So therefore, things. We have to be careful.
But there are two different things. We know what's going on, and it has to be addressed and taken care of. But we also know how it's been taking advantage to use, and the way it's handled. What we don't like is the way it's handled and the way it's being carried. But I want to carry on that and hear your view, your take on how all this situation is reaching and affecting the local elections here.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think that most Americans in the Midwest care.
No. I'm talking about the American Jews. I'm not talking about America.
I don't think that there's a large movement of American Jews towards Trump. Because by now they're more American than Jewish. And they really, really care about America the way that we care about Israel.
Right. And about democracy and about all
And
the
there,
values.
and
Right.
I do too, and I'm sure you guys also care. It's not like we don't care, but the visceral, deep level that's in your bone, under your skin, that we lose it when we think about Bibi or this or Stroke, or they don't. They do it over American politics. They already are very assimilated and very Americanized, acculturated
I
in
have a
America.
son like this, and you have.
They will not start. And also, let us remind ourselves that in this election, Trump is much less playing on the Jewish Israel card. Ivanka and Jared are not part of the
Right. Campaign.
campaign. Bichlal. They're
Yeah.
vanished as if they never existed. And everybody knows that
I
this
wouldn't
was
say
their
that he
baby.
disappeared because I'm sure he's acting behind the
No,
scenes.
no, no. He disappeared. He only making
Himself.
money for himself.
For
Come on.
himself.
He
That's-
really.
But like he doesn't speak about it as much as he used to.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
no,
And
no,
it's not a main point in his campaign. And also he had this childish fight with Bibi.
Right.
Yes, like he's like an overgrown baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because Bibi called Biden or some idiotic thing, he now hates Bibi. There's this video
Yeah, but
where
they're
I think
Bibi
together.
like wants to
he
shake his
always
hand
did.
and he's like,
I think he always did. He never cared.
But now they're talking.
They're talking because they have
so I
So
think
listen,
that
I'm sorry that we don't have much time, because what I would like, thought I want from you, what she said about the election, for me, it's more important how, because in Israel itself, there are a lot of people who are going back to the Bible, to God. You know, it is. You can see really a rise with the right wing. Also, more people are becoming more religious or more Masortiim, I don't know what to call it.
traditional.
Traditional. What in Judaism you cherish the most?
Look, I've always been traditional. I was born traditional and preserved that way of life. I never called myself secular, but I was never part of the religious world in any way. For me personally, I love the traditions, holidays, some practices. I do. I love it. I go to synagogue sometimes. I took my girls to synagogue on Shabbat. But for me personally, of course, the most the most attractive point is Jewish learning, is ancient Jewish text, which of course is all over the place in my writing. So my
Not in my
main
life.
not in your life.
Not in my life. No.
I study and teach ancient Jewish texts as a way of life. I read it, I write about it, I teach it, and I do it not in a religious way. I do it as a modern.
Can you write a book which is not too long, where you put all these thoughts you have about the ancient Judaism? You did?
I should. No, I didn't, but I
Why
should.
don't you do it for me?
Yalla, I'll do it for you.
I got a new Haggadah for Pesach by somebody from Harvard, that his parents couldn't take some of the sentences in the regular Haggadah, like, go against the non-Jews and stuff like this. And he did something great for me. Now I have a Haggadah that I can completely embrace. What I need, and I would like you to do it, to write a short book where I will be able to get the essence, the pupik, the belly button. Really, because I feel I'm not proud of myself.
That's okay. We're all products, Tzipi. We're products of our era. And there are things bigger than ourselves. Every generation had its calling, Yehud, and it had its attitude. There was a time where it was important to secularize the Jews. And then there was a time when it became important that the Jews will find their tradition again, maybe from a new perspective, sometimes from a fundamentalist, atavistic.
Are you optimistic?
About the Jews? Depends. That's a very good question. Depends on what hour in the day you catch me.
Oh.
I can be very, very pessimistic in the middle of the night when I wake up and I'm like, oy vavoy, what's going to happen? But sometime during the day, I may say, yeah, we will prevail.
There is a hope. Yeah.
There is a hope.
Do we have time?
I think we should end on there is a hope.
This is a very good way to
May
end.
call
is
you,
way
you
to
may,
end.
you, we may call you again.
We'll talk again, but
Yes.
I
I would
think
love that.
Thank
I
you
would-
so much
you
for
know where I
coming.
live. Thank you. Thank you. It was a
Thank
real
you,
pleasure.
Tzili.
Thanks,
You
Eve.
introduced me to a fabulous man.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you.
I'm going
everybody.
to go away with a lot of thoughts, and I'll tell you after one of them.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.